Sounded a bit religious.
Can you hear me in the back?
Yes!
Are you sure?
Yes!
Are we going to turn the veil red?
Yes!
Okay, I've been told to keep this brief. So I just want to thank you all. I know you're here for me, so that's great. But as you know, we've still got 5 days to go. We still have so many conversations to be had because this is a once-in-a-generation election. We need radical change now.
Yes.
So without further ado, I want to introduce our First Minister, Mr. Mark Drakeford.
Hey!
Diolch i fod yma yn y bari heddi I cefnogi Bel ac wrth gwrs I croesawu Jeremy Corbyn. 5 days to go. 5 days to make sure that our public services have the investment they need. 5 days to make sure that we save our NHS. 5 days to make sure that we have a government that puts our planet before profit. That's why we need a Labour government in Westminster to work with a Labour government here in Wales. A Jeremy Corbyn-led government that offers hope to people in this country. Hope that things can be different, hope that things can be better. The man who's going to do it here in Barry, right across the country, Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you very much to all of you for being here today. Excuse me, my voice. It's been a long campaign. First of all, winning here is absolutely crucial to electing a Labour government next Thursday. So please give all the support you possibly can to Belinda. She's shown what an energetic, brilliant candidate she is. She's shown the compassion that she has for the poorest and most downtrodden in our society. And she's determined to represent this constituency and this community with a Labour government beginning the huge task of transforming our country and our society. I'll be so proud. Telling me about her own life and telling me about all the problems and life that she's had to deal with. And she doesn't do that from the basis of walking away from the community that she grew up in. She does that from the basis of being part of that community and carrying that message of decency and social justice right to the top in Westminster. And that's exactly what she will do. Absolutely nothing for granted between now and next Thursday. It is quite possible, probable even, certain perhaps, that abuse will be hurled at all of us over the last 5 days of the election campaign. From print media newspapers whose billionaire owners do not want a Labour government that's going to tax them properly and fairly. Over the next 5 days. We've got 2 answers to them. One is our ability to reach people through social media, and social media works often well, although please, please, please never get involved in abuse of any sort. It doesn't get us anywhere. Getting us strong. But that helps to get 4 million more people registered to vote in this election next Thursday. And the other thing is about our society and our life. I was in a debate last night, as you may have noticed, in Kent with Mr. Johnson, and he was grandly telling us the economy is doing very well. There's nothing to worry about.
The man's a clown.
Yes.
It occurred to me, if an economy is doing well, why are there 4 million children in the UK living in poverty?
Yeah.
Why are there 135,000 children who, in Christmas, in 2 weeks' time, will not have the certainty of a home to call their own? Why, across the whole of the UK, will many thousands of our fellow citizens sleep on the streets? Why are so many people in work having to use food banks in order to survive? Why are so many of our young people going through terrible mental health stress because of debt and poverty and all kinds of difficulties that they face? And so our Labour government, going into office next week, is determined to change a lot of things very, very quickly. Because I do not want to live in a country that relies on food banks, debt and handouts for ordinary working people. So I'm very proud of our manifesto. Our manifesto that's been written, yes, by people in our Labour Party offices, my office and union offices and so on. And that manifesto, every word of it, is a product of the work of our movement all across the country. People in branch meetings that have put forward resolutions, union conferences, think tanks, campaign groups, charities, all kinds of people have put that details forward, which have now appeared in our manifesto. And it is a manifesto for radical change. And when Boris Johnson and others suddenly claim it's all absolutely unaffordable, coming from a government that's given tax relief and tax handouts, which has created 150 billionaires in this country, that has allowed the inequality to grow and grow, that from the political decision made by the Liberal Democrats and the Tories in 2010 to impose austerity on this country, freeze wages, cut expenditure, knowing full well it would increase poverty. I'm not taking those kind of lectures from them. Our manifesto... Our manifesto, the longest and most detailed of any party, and absolutely fully costed all the way through in the grey book that John McDonnell produced alongside of it. And you know what? At the end of that, when every single line of our manifesto has been carried out, we will just about reach the level of public services of France or Germany. That is how far backwards this country has gone ever since the Tories won an election in 1979, when they destroyed our industry and privatised so much of our public services. I'm proud of our manifesto and what it does.
Yes.
I'm proud of it. Take for example, the way in which universal credit operates. That disgraceful system of universal credit that ignores large families, the two-child policy, which has a disgusting rape clause in its analysis of the benefits that should or shouldn't go to a child that's born as a result of rape of a woman. Absolutely outrageous. They should even ask those questions. Every child matters. And every
Yes. Here.
So we will end universal credit and return to the system of social security as a security for people against absolute poverty and destitution. And when the United Nations itself sends a rapporteur to Britain to examine poverty and reports in the report, Philip Alstrom, professor who wrote it, said the consensus of preventing people falling into destitution, which was the hallmark of the British welfare state, has now been replaced by a cold and uncaring ethos. But he had a special word of support for the work done by devolved governments, particularly the government in Wales, to try to mitigate. So I want the Labour government in Westminster to work alongside Mark and the welfare. So it is about all of that, about elimination of poverty. And and it's about righting some of the injustices and wrongs of the past. The Mine Workers Pension Scheme, which has been robbed by the Tory government, will be rebalanced so that robbery ends.
Here, here.
And the Waspy women who fought with such bravery and such skill in their campaigning will be compensated and will get justice. And the interesting thing is, when we made the announcement about the Waspy women getting justice, media sort of queued up and suddenly discovered that the Waspy women were all going to get the money they're owed. And they said, why are they all going to get the money they're owed? Well, they're owed the money, so they'll get the money. I thought it was a fairly obvious thing. But apparently not. They said, no, some of them don't deserve it. So I said, hang on a minute. These are women that have worked, brought up families, made their contribution, helped make our society and country what it is. They've paid their tax, they've paid their national insurance, they've made their contribution. Who are you to say they don't deserve justice? They will get
Yes!
and we will do that. But it's also about our economy for the future. It's also about the economic development for the future. There has to be a reinvestment in our economy, but also recognising the challenges of climate change, of global warming, and of environmental damage and destruction. So today, as part of that whole campaign, we've announced a determination across the country to ensure the bus fleet is entirely electrified within 10 years, which will make it work with the Welsh Government in supporting that and supporting the reintroduction of bus routes all over the UK. Because there has to be proper bus transport alongside rail transport with public ownership and care. But it's also about economic development, it's also about jobs for the future and good quality jobs for the future. Good quality jobs achieved through a national investment bank, through regional banks in England and through Welsh and Scottish banks to ensure that there is investment in the manufacturing industry of the future. But it'll be different, it'll be green, it'll be sustainable, and it'll be good quality, high-skilled jobs. Because the climate crisis is here, it's real, it's happening. And I pay tribute to what the Welsh Government has done, declaring the climate emergency, which eventually we got through the Parliament in Westminster, thanks to a motion that I put forward on May the 1st. But it does mean huge investments, and it does mean a change in the way we do things. Previous industrial revolutions have usually been a transfer of wealth and power from the poorest to the richest. Our green industrial revolution will be the other way around. It will be investment in communities all across the UK. One scheme I'm very proud to support is the Swansea Bay Tidal Lagoon. The investment is important, but the spin-off is massive. The spin-off is massive because of the new technologies that will grow with it, the industries and jobs that will develop alongside it, as well as, of course, of the vast amount of electricity that will be generated from it. And I'm delighted that we're able to support that whole policy. And if you think of the spin-off of industries around Swansea University, because of high-tech work they've done there, same in Cardiff and other places, it is about investment for the future. Investment that brings about that prosperity and those jobs and the training and apprenticeships for the future. And in England, as in Wales, as in Scotland, I want to see an equal value to whether somebody does a high-skilled vocational course and apprenticeship just as much as if they go to university and get a degree. They're equally valuable. And to bring people together, you understand and know what the policy is on Europe. Last night you'd have heard Boris Johnson blathering on about how he's going to do a trade deal with the United States. It would take him at least 7 years to negotiate it. And following the papers that we revealed last week, it's very clear in which direction he wants to go. It's very clear that those secret talks, secret for 2 years, have carried on and on, saying that the Americans want access to our health market. Well, one of the great sons of Wales, and Aaron Bevan, put an end to the Welsh. And then, when Boris Johnson last night tried to claim, well, that's not really so, I said, well, why does it take 2 years of talks to say you're not doing something when you clearly are doing something? I tell you what, elect a Tory government on Thursday, our NHS is in peril. Let's make it clear to anybody who cares to listen to us, our NHS is not for sale. Either to pharmaceutical companies or anybody else. And under a Labour government, there will be an increase in the supply of cheaper, equally effective generic medicines rather than just patent medicines imported from the USA or elsewhere. And we will do something which I think Nye always wanted to do, which was have an NHS drug manufacturing capacity as well. So there is so much at stake next Thursday, so much at stake in this election. Are we going to continue down the road of inequality and poverty in Britain? Are we going to
No way.
of a government that deceives people, doesn't give them straight answers, hides documents, and simply won't answer questions? Or are we going on the road that we've set out, the road of investment for prosperity for the future, and giving every child in every part of the country the same chance and the same opportunity? Because poverty, apart from being morally wrong, is also economically stupid.
Yes.
Because if a child is growing up in desperate poverty, insecure housing, not being fed as well as they ought to be, going to school hungry, the best efforts of government and local authority to provide breakfast and lunches is very, very important. But at the end of the day, it's also about the income and prosperity of the home, the parents, and the quality of life they have. It's very clear from every study that children growing up in the worst aspects of poverty usually achieve less in school, less later on in life, and make, therefore, not the contribution they might have wanted to make to the rest of us. Bring up children fairly and equally, invest in every child all across the UK, you actually have a stronger economy, you have a stronger society, and you have that stronger sense of community. So we will invest. We will support the Welsh Government in its aspiration that every child gets a nursery place. We will work to achieve all of that. Because I want our government to be measured, yes, against all the economic indices that governments are usually measured against. But I also want us to be measured against the reductions of poverty, the reductions of inequality in Britain, and the environmental sustainability of what we do, an end to gender pay gap, and an end to ethnic discrimination in Britain. Because I want to live in a country and a society that genuinely does care for all. And so when there are those who seek to divide us, with racist language, xenophobic language, and attack minorities, those that bring the poison of racism in any form into our society, our answer is simply this. Our party, our movement, was founded to bring people together, founded on the basis of human rights and justice for all. And I'd be proud to lead a Labour government that does everything it can to make sure that racism has no place whatsoever, anywhere, anytime. All those traditions that founded our movement and our party in the 19th century, the 20th century, that brought us the National Health Service, that brought us the welfare state, that brought us the public ownership of the 1940s, that did ensure our industries developed properly, will be the foundations of a Labour government that will bring rail, mail and water into public ownership, that will bring the national grid into public broadband technology for the whole country as a form of basic communication of all of us. Our party is living in the 21st century. I'm not quite sure which century Jacob Rees-Mogg has reached yet. Between the 17th and 18th, I wouldn't wish to intrude on private grief. So we are the party of the people, of the community, and of the future. And in the remaining few days, those next 5 days up to the election, don't let up. Many voters make their minds up how to vote in the last few days, even the last few minutes of the election campaign. So you may be exhausted from knocking on doors for the past 35 days. Belinda looks like she just started this morning. Fantastic energy. But please keep it right up, right to the end. But when you're campaigning, yes, it's about talking to people. Yes, it's about giving a message out to people. Of course it is. But it's also about listening. It's listening to people's concerns and bringing them along with us to develop that sense of community. Communities that prevent something being closed, prevent something being destroyed, oppose the way universal credit operates, the way in which the capability for work test operates, and so on, come together out of strength. But all through my life, I've been on marches and demonstrations and fought against things being closed, things being cut back. We've all done that. And we'll always do that, because that's what we're about as a movement. But I want to be there with a government that will deliver those jobs, those services, that inclusion, that hope, that change that can bring about decency and justice within our society. We're not going to do that on our own. Mark can't do it on his own. Belinda can't do it on her own. I can't do it on my own. None of us can do it on our own. It's the principle of a movement. So when we win the election next Thursday, everybody wins. Because it will be a victory for people and their aspirations for a fair, just and decent society all across the UK. And I'm so proud to lead our party on its manifesto, on its policies, on essentially the hope that it brings to people all across this country of what a Labour government will deliver in Britain. And the voice will be on the world stage for climate justice, for human rights, for peace and democracy all around the world. That is the kind of government we're going to be.